Hi guys, welcome back. So you want to main science. This is the third episode in the series. We're back at Andoria. We have our temporal ship that we saw in the last episode, and today we are going to go over abilities. Now, we kind of edged on some of the abilities earlier, but I have put mine in a set order. This actually was was given to me, in fact, so I was very lucky in retrospect by Dragon 1608 and also by Omega Fighter when I came back to the game. I was aware of some of the abilities, but things have changed in the 3 years that I was missing, and some new abilities got released with different packs. So we were looking at a pure damage EPG build. I was quite interested to get back into science, and this is where I am at with the science build. So we already have sensor analysis. We know about that. We know what that does. We talked about it a little bit in the last episode. In this episode, we're going to talk about the other abilities that I've taken, and our bridge officer layout. So I'm going to show you my actual bridge officer layout. I will mention that most of my bridge officers are trained up in most of the special kind of things like temporal operative, etc, etc. It obviously does depend on your ship, but you can apply. I do have a nebula which I will show you in a different video, which is set up slightly differently, which isn't a temporal ship but applies some of the same facts. So what have we got? We've got various slots in here. So here we have a science slot character in a universal slot. Here we have our tactical slot. We don't really use a lot of tactical abilities. I'd be very surprised if any science ship you're using many tacticals, and you should really not be using many tacticals because we don't really do our damage through this way. But we do need 2 buffs. We need tactical team, and we do need torpedo spread too. They're just too good not to take, basically. And I'm not really going to go over tactical team. You can read the tooltip on that. I think you guys know what it does. That's a really good ability to take anyway for the shields, and generally keeping your shields up on all faces. Torpedo spread pretty much does what it says on the tin. It will basically spread out your torpedoes to damage up to 4 targets, so good ability to have. In terms of the abilities that matter to us, Science Team 1, very much a simple heal. It removes science debuff, so if you're getting debuffed by another science ship, then this is a worthwhile ability to obviously have on your roster. You want at least one of these, and then we get onto the really cool stuff. So some of this stuff is only available in new content, some of this you'll have to buy, some of this you'll have to earn through missions. This first one that we're looking at is Subspace Vortex 2. Now Subspace Vortex 2 is basically, well, it creates a hole in space, I suppose, if you want to describe it for a second. It lasts for 20 seconds and it causes kinetic damage per second, ignoring shields to all foes within 3 kilometers. It's a really good ability to pile on top of something, and it's about comboing these abilities like Gravity Well and Tycoon's Rift with this kind of ability, because again, you're stacking damage per second, so dot damage on targets and multiple dots on top of targets. So this is also one that stacks damage. It's buffed by your EPG. You can use it, quite interestingly, to also teleport to the location of something, which is really helpful if you're using something like charged particle burst and you want to get the maximum amount of damage from your gear. We'll talk about that in a bit, but essentially it allows me, once I'm getting to the end of the set, if I'm counting that timer there and I'm thinking about that timer, I can use it right at the last minute to jump to the middle of my target and then unleash a charged particle burst at point blank range, which is kind of what you want to do. So it's a really good ability to have. So good thing to have. So we've also got Destabilizing Resonance Beam. This is a mission specific buff that you can get. I can't remember the mission off the top of my head. I think it's Blood of Ancients possibly where it comes from. This is one of the abilities we talked about. That is a debuffing ability. Essentially, you're going to target a foe. This is going to do an amount of damage. It's going to ignore the shields. It's going to do it in a 3 kilometer radius of the target. So again, it's another dot that you're firing off. And what it's going to do is it's going to give -5 all damage restrained per pulse to targets. So it's a pulsing ability that is doing damage. Okay. What else it does? Also, it does -5% energy weapon damage per pulse to target. So basically, you're affecting, in effect, their ability to damage. You're affecting their ability to resist that damage. if it gets to a certain amount of stacks, if you can keep it on target, their weapons go offline. So it's also shutting down their weapons. So it's a really quite a ridiculously good beam. This is level 2, obviously, because we can't have the first slot because of where we are with slots. So you've got Science Team 1, Subspace Vortex 2, and Destabilizer Beam 2 in our universal slot here. If we look at our engineering slot, we've got emergency powered shields. I would pretty much always say take emergency powered shields. That's the one that we're going to have auto cycling from our whacking of the space bar. That's going to cause that proc that we talked about on our temporal ship with our support configuration to be going off. Obviously, we're also getting the bonus from our skills we said in episode 1 from the engineering abilities. So emergency powered shields 1, very, very good. Repairs disabled shields, all very, very good. Gives you shield resistance rating as well, all very, very good. Emergency power to auxiliary 2. Why do you need this? Like the battery, another way to repair your disabled auxiliary systems. If you have no auxiliary, you're not doing any damage. That is basically your weapons being offline. Gives you 80 stealth. Not really too bothered about the 80 stealth. Gives you perception. Gives you auxiliary power. Gives you exotic particle generator. So it improves your exotic damage. So just triggering that gives you damage. Isn't that ridiculous? So it's going to give you plus 15 to your EPG. It's going to give you 15 to your SCE. Control effects like gravity well, things like that. That is a really good ability to have. Think about it and how it combos. Okay. It also gives you resistance as well. So it's all a very good ability. We then have structural integrity collapse free. Again, targets a foe, does physical damage, ignore shields, gives them a debuff that basically means they get minus 30 physical damage resistance and minus 30 kinetic damage resistance rating. Okay, so if you look at our ability, like what does it do? It does kinetic damage. Yeah, it does kinetic damage. Yeah, so we want to be trying to pile on things like that and stacking abilities. It's all about stacking abilities and in the right order. Okay. Now we come over to the temporal science here. We have Entropic Redistribution 1. Again, 10 kilometer range. Pretty quick recharge because of my British officers. Does 9,000 physical damage. Ignores shield. Half damage versus players. Fair enough, but good in PvE. Additional 500 per stack of entropy. So you gain entropy. This is something that's part of the temporal mechanic. And it removes all entropy from the primary target. So essentially, if you've put entropy on the target, this will take it away. It will consume that, and it then what it does is it adds that entropy to all foes within 5 kilometers of the primary target. So it's actually passing the parcel, if you like, passing away from the primary target that you might have used it on. This is going to redistribute it to all the targets, and it will also deal damage, ignoring shields, per entropy removed from the primary target. So again, stacking that damage is quite a good damaging ability. Charge particle burst we kind of talked about earlier, but basically does 2 targets within 5 kilometers, does minus 6,500 1.1 shields, minus 5.8 shield resistance, and disables cloaking systems. It's a good thing to jump into the middle of a pack once you've killed one target off, and then use your charge particle burst just to knock down the shields of any remaining ships that might be caught in. It's a kind of nice ability to have as well if something lands on top of you. Moving on, timeline collapse 1. Basically, very short recharge again. Creates a level 61 timeline collapse for 5 seconds. During the first 4 seconds, minus 20.8 pull per second, enhanced by entropy to foes within 3 kilometers. Reveals cloaked ships and disables pilot maneuvers after 5 seconds. It does up to 13,714 physical damage to foes within 3 kilometers. Again, notice all of these damage abilities are doing damage within 3 kilometers. Okay. And it increases closer to the center, and it's enhanced again by entropy. It removes all entropy from targets and only occurs in certain circumstances. Okay, so these are good abilities to have. Gravity well 3. Pretty much this one needs no explanation. If you've played the game long enough, you should know what Gravity Well does by now. But if you don't, Gravity Well basically, fire it as something. It sucks everything in. This, because it's number 3, does it to 9.5 kilometers each second. And it will, because of the way our EPG is stacked, because it is affected by EPG, it will do an absolute crap ton of damage over time. So it does 2,603 point connection. It ignores shields. it's doing this damage. But the reason we bring that is obviously we want to pull everybody into the center, and then we're going to use all our other abilities. We have hazard emitters as well. Obviously that's going to give us 13,000 hit points over 50 seconds, gives us damage resistance rating, and it continually removes hazard debuffs and dots 50 seconds. So it's a really good ability to have hazard emitters. That rounds out our overall ability lineup. So let's have a look at that for a minute. We do have a few things in the order that I like to have. I like to obviously have my sensor analysis on my primary target. I then like to give them a collapse, reducing their resistance. I then like to give them a resonance beam, again further reducing their resistance. I then like to gravity well them because that's going to pull everything else into the range. I then like to Subspace Vortex on top of that, and I then like to do my other abilities like Entropic Redistribution and finally timeline collapse. And if that's not enough, because I've done all the temporal so I've got the anti-time entanglement singularity, which does 3,920.8 physical damage, 100% shield penetration each second for 12 seconds, and it starts vloggers and continually shrinks, and that again pulls down their flight speed. It holds the target. It's if you activate another exotic damage ability, grants 4% firing cycle haste for energy weapons. It's a good, and it gives you auxiliary power. It's all of those kind of nice things, and it gives you that 10% exotic damage or 10% increased healing. Again, by using that time entanglement singularity. So really good set of abilities to really smash your targets to pieces, and it's boosted by our power in EPG, which comes from our gear that we'll cover in the next episode. So you'll see, oh hello Mr. John from USS Warwickshire. Some people just warp into Andoria now and again, so it's quite nice actually, I find. In terms of other things that we've obviously got our auxiliary up here. What else do we have? Well, we have the red matter capacitor, 25 to all power levels, good ability to have. Subnucleonic beam, when to use that? Well, that's going to remove all the buffs from the target. Yeah, it's sub's good. It gives you damage increase. Again, it's knowing the right time to use it. It also increases the charge up rates of the target's bridge officer and captain ability. So good against players, obviously. This can obviously be used in PvP to shut down a tanking escort or a buffed escort. And that is generally called for in PvP. It's one of those things that's received a lot of criticism over the years, but generally it's a good science ability, and why you take a science player in your team. May it rain. We've got a science team in here. We've already talked about what that does. Evasive maneuvers, obviously, when you really need to get out of trouble. Again, use it well. Works well with our ship abilities that we've got. We'll go over those in another episode. Threatening stance we've kind of already mentioned. Because I have a lot of the reputations, I do have Refracting Tetron Cascade here. There you go. You know what it does damage. Again, why do I keep that one? Because it's damage that bounces between all targets, and I'm going to have a crap ton of targets. Gravity Weld in the middle. Again, even more damage I can put out should I choose to do it. Obviously, you know what the Sensor Interference platform does. That comes from the Lucari reputation. It taunts NPCs. Again, nice little bit of way to just dump some aggro off of yourself. Enter scan free. Again, something to think about. This is optional when you use this, but if you really have a hard target, so something like a dreadnought or something like that, enter scan free, minus 67.8 all damage resistance rating, couples well with all our other damage resistance ratings such as structural integrity collapse. So again, ways to knock the resistance down, really imperative. We've already talked about the molecular deconstruction. Again, minus exotic damage resistance. You can couple these really well. What else have we got? We've got the Causal Anchor. That's something that I have equipped, which basically attaches. You can see that it does damage. It ignores shields. Damage increases and anomalies get closer to one another. Again, it's a good ability. It comes with the temporal ships, and it's going to do a lot of damage, basically up to 5 targets in 3 kilometers. It's something else that adds to my damage within 3 kilometers. So everything that's being sucked in by gravity well is pretty much almost doomed, and that's why everything explodes. The Delphic Tear, again, it's another module that you can get. This is all gear based, but basically gives you plus exotic damage. Why would you not use it? And so on and so forth. Science Fleet. all you need to know really is that it buffs your team and yourself for 30 seconds. So it's a really good ability to blow when you are taking damage, etc, etc. Scattering field, very same, gives you a way to boost your damage, and also gives you a way to resist things. So again, a good ability to use. We talked about probability manipulation and the shell and the collapse. Again, you guys don't need to go over that again. That was mentioned in the very first episode about using those. When is right to get the shield healing or your hull healing, or to get your extra damage and defense. So it's more for, I use it more as a get out of jail free card to save myself. Same with my Romulan space reputation. Here I've got this science stats, 100 science stats for 8 seconds. Cloaks my ship. Again, I use it to get out of jail free card. Constriction anchor, I'm not going to go over it too much, but again, it's something else I use to hold something down. We've already talked about the battery capacitor, and then I've got my advanced metaphasic shield. So pretty much standard builds. I can add, the one thing I've just realised isn't on there is my photonic fleet. That needs to go back on there. I haven't updated my bar for a while, but yeah, generally I think, oh, I can do fleet support as well. I should put this, these are the kind of things I rarely ever use, because I rarely die these days. That's not me showing off, that's just me being honest. Oh, and I forgot my isokinetic cannon, which needs no introduction. We'll go over that when we go over our set bonuses, but again, it does exotic damage. So you've got all this plus exotic damage coming in. You guys, I think, are starting to get the idea around where all this damage is coming from. So yeah, not bad at all. I think we've covered most of the things that I wanted to cover today. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. As I said, next time we're going to start looking at our gear and how we have set up this particular ship to do so much damage. If you want to main science, then do so. Follow my guides, and we'll make sure we get you there to one of the most damaging builds you can currently do in STO in 2017. But as always, this is Bang saying good night and goodbye and signing out.